I was just curious, are you able to reach out to the new administration to help educate Congress on any of these issues? I think they're so well put and understandable. And I think there's some opportunities there maybe to educate Congress and some of the people higher up in the administration.
Yeah, I did apply to the new administration, but I'm not an insider ultimately, and I think there's opportunities, but it's whether they utilize.
Reach out to John Kerry directly, given his new role.
Can I piggyback on that?
The
question I had, and I actually do climate change and national security work.
Oh,
so
great.
Thank you so much for your talk. I was learning things and also nodding my head crazily. So, but I heard John Kerry, and of course now Gina McCarthy will be hit with this as well, but they're getting questions about, rejoining the Paris Agreement, which Biden has committed to. But beyond that, they questioned John Kerry about a week ago about, does the Paris Agreement go far enough? And he acknowledged that it doesn't.
No.
There are absolutely improvements that can be made to that. But then the question came up of, well, is this going to be a sacrifice to the American people? And so how do you talk to people about making changes, especially in the midst of massive unemployment, and we're just dying to emerge out of this pandemic and go back to normal? But what are the communication strategies to talk to people about sacrifice, which there's going to be some, but what they're going to get in the long run? So I just wondered if you had worked on that at all.
Yeah, I have, and it's and again, it's pivotal to the work that I do. Let's just think, for example, of the fires, our recent fires, right? Look at the economic damage that those fires caused, right? People were shuttered in. Do you know the agriculture was impacted? It affected planting. There is and the other thing too, to fight those fires, it's an extreme amount of money. That money is coming from somewhere. I know people whose house payments, their insurance have doubled. Right? There is an absolute cost we are paying, and the matter of fact is, it's the population, it's the public that are actually already sacrificing it. We just don't see it quite so much because it's not so directly apparent. But think about this: if the federal government and state and government have to pay all this stuff, that money is coming from somewhere. It's coming from the money that we put in as taxpayers. So that means other services are going to be cut, right? There's no way you can't pay for everything. When COVID, the amount of money we're paying for COVID, which also we know that things like infectious diseases are exacerbated also by climate, and that's scientifically proven, right? So this is not like just, throwing everything in, but there is such a giant cost to things. And it is part of the communication for people to see these costs. But the problem is, people are really usually super willing to throw in a couple dollars to help, people from a fire, to help, when there's a hurricane. Oh, there's hurricane relief, people chip in and all that stuff like that. There's all these good feelings about chipping in when these disasters happen. But you know what? I've been fortunate to actually not lost my house or lost anybody. But I tell you, I would rather not have those disasters happen in the first place. And the people who are receiving this generosity would probably also tell you they would rather not have lost their houses, right? So how do we communicate that? How do we say, what, we can't just wait till it's your turn that your house burns down or a flood event happens, right? There's a cost, right? And it's making those connections to people that is really what we do not do well enough. It's just not done. The other thing is just the wording. If I hear the word existential connected to climate change one more time, I'm going to pull my hair out. They even use that word, Biden is using it because it's a buzzword. The people that we're trying to connect with, how are they ever going to connect with a word like existential? What is an existential crisis? You're using vocabulary in a way that drives people away. They don't get it. That is not the way to communicate it. And so the work that I do, this talk was at a higher level because of the audience that I spoke with. But I certainly would not choose to show and go over the things that I did with different audiences. And so again, communication-wise, if our leaders aren't getting if our leaders are trying to do the good thing, but our politicians are not science experts and they're not expert science communicators, and the people that they're getting under them are also not necessarily great science communicators, right? How do we change that conversation? And that's really, I think, is the key. Otherwise, we don't need more science. We do not need any more actual climate science studying because we know the problem, So, yeah, it's communication,
Thank you.
From working on, again, superconductors and, going to poems and going to a novel and, sex sells, think about these things. These are the things that, the marketing strategies that are selling ridiculous stuff. We need to do better at implementing that to help get climate connected to people, in ways that work, that are effective,